Saucony Endorphin Pro, originally released back in 2020, this shoe was considered a super shoe among the class of super shoes that are out there. With a PEBA midsole, carbon plate, really light upper, this shoe is definitely one to use for race day. But how does it stack up today in 2024? I've been out of the running game for 8 years, so I'm coming from the past, looking at a shoe that was quite frankly not around 8 years ago. So I took first spin, and I want to give you my take on the Saucony Endorphin Pro ICON edition. Part of the reason I'm going on this run was to test these shoes out for longer miles. These are the Saucony Endorphin Pro, the original series, but these are the ICON version, so they're kind of a throwback to their original style. I wanted to see what it was like to run a longer distance. I've already done 7 mile shorter distance runs, and this is a 11-mile run, so I just wanted to put it through its paces and see how does it feel for me, who's a slower runner, definitely not a pro. You know, how does it feel on these longer runs? And so far, I'd say it's more positive than I thought it was going to be, because the shoe is described as being firm, and it is. It's much firmer than my other shoes, but it's not a bad firm. It's like a firm and responsive shoe. It's got a lot of spring to it. It's enjoyable to run, especially when you pick up the paces, but I will say there are times when I'm kind of slowing down and running much slower, like let's say 10-minute pace-ish. That's probably too slow for this shoe because it's a little jarring. You know, I'm not necessarily a heel striker, but when you slow down your cadence and your pace, you tend to land a little bit more on your heel. And I can feel a little bit of that jarring from the road and from the impact. So, but definitely been surprised on this run though, and it's been a joy every time I picked up the pace, you know, into the 7-minute pace, which is pretty fast for me at least right now. It's definitely very responsive, and I would definitely race in these shoes in a shorter distance. Probably 5K, 10K. I might even do a 15K in these shoes because I'm not feeling too beat up yet or anything, and I'm already 6 miles into this run, so but yeah, I'm really liking this, and plus I like the colorway. I love the throwback retro look with the Saucony river with its 3 stones. I'm gonna go keep running on this run, pick up the pace.
The Saucony Endorphin Pro originally launched back in 2020 and retailed for $200. The Endorphin Pro has a PEBA-based midsole called Power Run PB with an 8mm of drop, totaling 35.5 in the heel and 27.5 in the forefoot. Embedded in that midsole is an S-curved carbon plate, which helps with the propulsion. And speaking of that propulsion, the sole of the shoe is rockered, featuring what Saucony calls speed roll technology, and really gives the shoe a nice roll off the toes. Onto the upper. It is a nice single layer of engineered mesh, which helps keep my feet cool on these hot Florida runs. There are perforations throughout, letting some air in and letting some of the heat out. In some reviews that I've read, the upper was criticized for being sloppy, but I didn't have any issues with lockdown at all. The OG Endorphin Pro is a good shoe. So good, in fact, that Saucony released the Pro 2 with the same midsole. Then they released this version, the ICON edition, which is reminiscent of the Saucony Jazz.
So the Saucony Endorphin Pros definitely have a notable rocker on the toe off. It feels like the front of the shoe kind of cuts off abruptly. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, because as you kind of go through your stride, especially if you're going faster, you feel like it helps like roll your foot forward and into your stride. So definitely a nice shoe to run in, but I will say now that I'm in about 8.5 miles, it is a bit firm. My legs are hurting a little bit, so definitely not good for slower paces because you'll feel it a little bit. But you know what? Looking at this shoe, I feel like I've just kind of went into the future. I didn't run for like 8 years solid, wasn't paying attention to what shoes were out there. And now that I'm here in the future, I'm kind of blown away by the technology and how much has changed in such a short amount of time. I mean, the real game changer, I think, is PEBA. So the midsole in this shoe is PEBA based, so it's definitely a lot springier while staying really light. And then the other thing is carbon plate. Part of the reason I bought this shoe, because was because I wasn't sure what it would be like to run in a carbon-plated race day shoe. I guess I can say I do notice the carbon plate and like the springy responsiveness on the toe off. But on a run like this today, where it's mostly long, slow miles, it's definitely not worth using it for. Going forward, these shoes are going to be relegated to my shorter, faster workouts and probably race day. If I were going to compare it to a shoe from yesteryear, I would probably say it's kind of like my old Saucony Kinvara 5s in a sense. I mean, I'm trying to keep it within the family, but they're super lightweight, responsive, and nice race day kind of trainers that I would use. The thing that surprised me though is how nowadays they pack so much features into such a lightweight packaging. Honestly, these shoes are really light, and I love how they feel on the feet, especially when I'm picking up the pace. I really like this shoe. I definitely am glad I got it. It's added to my rotation. If you want to see me do a look back at the old Kinvara 5s, let me know in the comments. I'm thinking about doing a video revisiting those shoes. Dust off the cobwebs. They're sitting in my garage. They were definitely destined for the garbage bin, but I'm definitely willing to do a review, kind of a retro look back at the Saucony Kinvara 5s, which were my first Kinvaras, my second pair of Sauconys back in the day, and I loved those shoes. I love those for race days. So. So I guess the big question is, for someone who is carbon curious like myself, is it worth getting a carbon plated shoe? I'm going to answer that by saying, first off, do you need a carbon plated shoe? If you already have several different shoes in your rotations, you're not in the need of one right now, I would say probably not, unless you're seeking to be a little bit more competitive. Now, I'm not saying don't, because they're definitely a little bit more fun, a hell of a little bit of a pop, but I will also say my other favorite pair of shoes right now are my Asics Super Blasts, and even those without a carbon plate, they provide you with a little bit more cushion compared to these shoes, and they still have a nice little pop to them. And I'm not a pro racer, so I'm not running to win races or anything, but definitely enjoy the carbon plated shoes. Now, what I will recommend, if you are interested in trying out some carbon plated shoes, and do what I did. I bought these shoes with 120 miles on them off of eBay for what I thought was a pretty good price. I paid probably like $30 with shipping. They had about a good 120 miles on them, but looking at the picture, the condition looked all overall pretty good. I would say it's pretty good. They were a little dirty from some road debris, but I figured, they're a PEBA midsole shoe, 120 miles. They're probably getting to the point where they're starting to lose a little bit of their bounce, but I still think they're super bouncy, so I definitely would enjoy a fresh pair. So yeah, if you're curious about carbon plated shoes, give them a shot. See if it's worth it for you. You might be out of a couple bucks, but if you're not able to try them on in a store, at least that way you can kind of get them on your feet and see what you like. And also, you're keeping a pair of shoes out of the waste stream, so kind of a win-win situation there. I don't regret getting these shoes. I'm glad I bought them used. Now I know what it's kind of like. And actually, shoes that I might have set on to get in the future would be a pair of the Endorphin Pro 4s or even the Endorphin Speeds. We'll see how these shoes fare. But again, I already have two other shoes in my rotation. Kind of a daily trainer, soak up the miles in my Go Run Ride 11s. And then my longer distance, yet snappy, responsive Asics Super Blast shoes that I can kind of use for everything basically. And now I have these shoes, which I will race in. So that's my take on that. So that's the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure you like and subscribe. We got more long runs coming, more shoe reviews coming on this channel. So I appreciate anything you can suggest. If you got any suggestions, again, just follow. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks again.